And so it begins again. Welcome, Dream Team, to a new season of The Good, The Bad and The Rugby. This is season 4 for us. And once again, we are fully paid up to rugby's roller coaster for the next 12 months or so. We are going to be bringing you Premiership, URC, Europe, of course, Six Nations. But that is all to come, obviously, after the big dance in France, which is now just 4 weeks away, would you believe? And today we're at Twickenham for the England squad announcement. We're going to come on to that in a moment or two. But before we get into the detail, we do just want to say a very warm welcome to our new friends, our headline sponsors, which is Continental Tires. And we are absolutely delighted to have them as part of the GBR family, not only because of their support over the next season or so, but also for the opportunities that is going to afford us. Lots more to come on that over the next few weeks and months. But we start in the World Rugby Museum here at Twickenham because Tinds is alongside Lord Michael Tyndall, back from a very good summer. And we've come to visit an old friend, which is none other than the Webb Ellis Cup, which stands resplendent here amongst a really amazing selection of the great and the good of memorabilia from the game that we love. Nice to see you, and nice to see your old friend. What are the memories as you stand alongside this old beaut?
Yeah, well, obviously it holds pretty good memories. You know, we never really put it through the damage that, let's say, the Calcutta Cup's been through, but it got a good run for it on the tour bus around London. A few pints were drunk out of it, but it's never been thrown around. It's always been respected.
Quite right. Then that's right, because you had to call it the World Cup, not Bill. Australia called it Bill in '99. Is that right in saying Clive said we shall refer to it as the Webb Ellis Cup?
Yes, I think he's always sort of more official, isn't he? Yeah. So yeah,
my kind of guy.
Yeah.
Memories.
Always get everything right.
Quite right too. Memories of days like this as an England player, knowing that you're on your way to. Yeah, big show. My recollection is not great. '99, I remember getting dropped, but I got dropped probably, it was before the warm-up game started, via email. Thanks, Clive. And then '03, I don't really remember the announcement. I remember generally being panicked about whether I was going to get picked or not, or that team just never took things for granted. Obviously a very special year. There are many mountains to climb, though, before we find out who will lift this trophy alongside the Webb Ellis Cup on the 28th of October 2023. Lots of speculation, lots of names in the hat. Should we go and find out for real who's in the England squad for 2023?
Let's do it.
Let's go. So from the World Rugby Museum to pitch side here at Twickenham, lots of clanging, banging and drilling going on as the stadium gets ready for
And Hask
England.
isn't even here.
No, very good. Obviously lots to come because it's England-Wales this weekend. You do feel England will want a seriously impressive performance just to get the confidence levels up and the fans in full voice. To confirm, though, we have now had the official England World Cup squad for Rugby World Cup 2023, and I shall go through them because I'm sure you have heard it by now, but just for those of you who haven't, where have you been? In the forwards, Ellis Genge, Joe Marler, Bevan Rodd, Jamie George, Jack Walker, Theo Dan, congratulations to him, Kyle Sinclair, Dan Cole, Will Stewart, Maro Itoje, Ollie Chesham, George Martin, Dave Ribbons, Courtney Laws, Lewis Ludlam, Tom Curry, Jack Willis, Ben Earl, Billy Vunipola. And in the backs, Ben Youngs, Danny Kerr, Jack Van Portfleet, Owen Farrell, who will skipper the side to France, George Ford, Marcus Smith, Manu Tuolangi, Ollie Lawrence, Joe Marchant, Anthony Watson, Elliot Daly, Max Malins, Henry Arundel, and Freddie Stewart. So those are the 33 chosen. The headlines, I suppose, in terms of omissions: Henry Slade, Alex Dombrandt, probably the two big ones. Mako Vunipola hasn't recovered from back surgery. And then you're to the likes of, I suppose, Johnny Hill, Alex Mitchell at scrum half, potentially Ben Spencer. I know you're keeping an eye on coming into this one. But we have the squad chosen, and your initial reaction to that is?
Look, I think it's not far from what I would have expected or picked. As I've said a bit of a time, I think we've got a problem. I think we've got 9 is my issue. Apart from that, I'm pretty happy with it. Now they've just got to get cohesive and deliver on the field.
What are the hallmarks of it? Big, strong, with versatility.
Yeah, I think you would say he's gone to try and make it as physical as he can. And I think if you pick a 15, which we'll do later, you can make that happen. I think obviously at the weekend, you can't really pick out yet how they want to play. I would say that they kicked less than they normally do in a game on the weekend. Yet, people will say, well, they got beat, but they had more possession, more territory. So they're still going to be that team that will exit well, try and compete at everything, but at the same time, they've got to try and find a few different ways of getting out of their 22 and playing a little bit more. But with the handling errors on the weekend, you just didn't see that. So you got no real gauge on how they were trying to play.
What about the fact he's named it early?
I think England's been in a place for the last few years where no one's really sure of what is the first 15 or had an idea of what that looks like. We've rotated a revolving door of players, whereas now I think it's a good thing because I think he can really use there's 3 more games, is there? Yeah, 3 games.
3 more games to go.
So he can use those 3 games to really get some continuity, get some partnerships, get some combinations, whatever you want to say, working and embedded and ingrained. I'd be interested to find out if Elliot is because of how varied the team has been, have they spent a lot more time on actual rugby processes, rather than just the old run, hit the line, and do your fitness stuff, do your weight stuff. They spent a fair bit of time of rugby. Had that conversation in Wales, and they were saying with one of the Welsh lads, and he was saying that they'd had to spend a lot more time on actual rugby stuff because of their new players coming in. So it'd be interesting to find out whether England have had to do the same.
The question I want to ask you is that form lines have not been what they would have wanted over the last few years, but we go to a tournament. And it's tournament rugby, it's high pressure, it's expectation. How well set up is this squad? It's an experienced squad. I think a number of them are going to their 4th World Cup. In fact, if I can find it on my notes, the likes of Dan Cole, Ben Youngs, etc., have been there and done it a number of times. What are your expectations on this side? How quickly can they pull it together and how dangerous can they be?
Look, I really feel England are a little bit of an unknown quantity. I do think they have a group of players that have the ability, but then transferring that to on the pitch is the biggest problem. We've got a lot of players who have won major tournaments for Sarries. Obviously Ellis has won stuff with Leicester. So they've experienced it. We've just got to bring that all together. And, Steve did an unbelievable job at Leicester. It hasn't quite gone the same way as yet in his with what he's done with England, but I think he's very positively received with all the players and how one thing that always comes out is honesty and how he's quite upfront with people and tells and he's always respects them to tell them face to face. And we heard, I think Alex will explain a bit more about how he's had to deal with the announcement, but. Look, I think we're definitely in a good position because we're on the right side of the draw. I don't think there's ever been a World Cup draw like it where you've got 4 of the top 5 teams in the world on the other side, or five of the top 6 teams in the world on the other side, and only 2 of those could possibly make it to a final. So it's interesting to say the least, and hopefully we can ride that. You've said it before, you don't necessarily have to be at your best. You've pointed out, and you look at last 2019, South Africa, terrible really through the tournament, and then saved their best game for the final. England were probably the best team in it all the way through, had their best performance on the semi-final, and didn't quite manage to turn up in the final. So look, there's many ways to skin a cat, and hopefully we can find that and progress through and somehow. Good thing, you don't know what state the teams on the I'm going to say left side, I don't suppose the A and B side of the draw are going to be, because they're going to have to go hard, especially that South Africa, Ireland, Scotland. Yeah. Is Tonga in there as well?
Yes.
That's a brutal group. You don't know how they're going to come out of it. Injuries could play a massive role in this World Cup because there's teams, not so much in the France-New Zealand group, because you expect those two to whoever wins that first game is going to top the group, basically. But that other group is going to take a bit of a beating, and then they've got to come in and play whoever whoever from Group A.
Injuries and also red cards as well.
Yeah.
Bound to have a massive role to play. Did you like
obviously.
the yellow into red at the weekend in the Scotland game?
Yeah.
Not necessarily the actual sanction, but the technique.
Yeah,
of
the
saying-
technique. It's way better. It's definitely the best way forward. Take away. It takes away a lot of heat as well post the game. You know what I mean? Where the refs have tried to discuss it on the field and it's wasted time, and then everyone will then have a go at the ref. Give it to someone who no one ever knows the name of in a truck,
Stig.
a long far away. That way you take away the abuse of the referees, because it's not their job to get abused. They should never know who they are, and they should just stay, and then they can make the decision that they think's right, and no one can ever go after them for it. I think that'd be the best thing.
Good. You mentioned Ellis. We're going to reset. The sun is coming out here at Twickenham, but just before we do that and we welcome in the fourth wheel on our car, it's worth mentioning, of course, that England's first game of Rugby World Cup 2023 is against Argentina, and we are going to be there. We're at the game. We are also, can't quite believe I'm saying this, it is now becoming very, very apparent. We are hosting 4,000 rugby fans aboard the GBR Cruise. It is going to be epic. That is actually the name of the cruise ship itself, but it also is going to be a hell of a few days. We are back on board for the quarterfinals as well, where the GBR boys of Good Bad Rugby Australia are going to be joining us as well. God help us and our livers. Don't count your chickens, but we could be looking at England, Australia, Argentina and Wales facing off across 2 days in Marseille in October for the quarterfinals. And if you fancy joining us, then head to infinityrugby.io to secure your place right now. Price includes food and drink, official match tickets, luxury accommodation and match transfers, and a boatload of GBR bants, it says. Don't miss it. We're there on the piss, but thankfully one of us is going to be there professionally doing the business, and therefore let's bring in the fourth wheel on our car, Rhino Bambino, Dr. Ellis Genge.
Why have you gone with Doctor?
I don't know, I just think
nowadays?
Dr. Genge has got a nice, it's like sort of Dr. Faustus. If we got the prof in Australia, I thought like the sorcerer I could be, or the philosopher, the enigma, the count. We could call me the count. All right, maybe not. Let's bring in the fourth wheel on our car, none other than the Rhino Bambino.
Some say the main wheel, really.
Some say the main wheel, the big wheel.
They can't
on
wait
our
for him to
car.
retire to get rid
The
of
big
our
dog.
faces.
The big cheese, the Rhino Bambino. Well done, our boy. It's not really a surprise, but Ellis Genge VC in brackets. Do you buy into moments like this, the big dance in France, or do you just think, crack on?
I've always said, I think I'll reflect after I've finished. I'm not really one to sort of sit there and gaze into the sunset and think, well, I've done now, because I usually trip up if I do so. So, yeah, I'm obviously really proud, but the hard work starts now, doesn't it?
How did you find out? Is it an email? Were you all together? How does it come together?
As in the squad itself,
Yeah.
WhatsApp now, isn't it? Everyone's
So
a bit
right.
further along.
Well,
you have-
It's
welcome to
actually
2023.
it's no different to going back to
No,
teletext.
no,
Except that
exactly.
it's a bit more private.
But to be
there's
fair,
other people on it.
Steve he's brilliant with this sort of stuff. He tells everyone face to face, so you'll find out before anyone else finds out. Weirdly enough, the media find out very shortly after. But
Right.
no, he has a conversation with everyone face to face.
And that's you going into his office room?
It was just a room at the
Just a
hotel.
room at
Yeah,
the
after the
hotel.
game, obviously, it was a short transition between playing against Wales and then the squad being announced on Monday. So he had to tell us on Sunday, and then
And he said
Here
to
we
you, what? You're in. I want to be vice captain.
it's a bit different to that, but yeah, along those lines. He spoke to me prior to camps about the vice captaincy role and saying that Owen's going to captain the team and stuff, and how I can support and help the squad. And yeah, obviously more than happy to assist. Do you know what's brilliant? I think he was quite translucent with everyone. Like he didn't leave anyone in the mist. I think he's been honest with everyone as we've gone along. He hasn't sort of like kept anyone in the shadows, and I think honesty is the best policy in that case. No one wants to be sort of teetering on the edge and sort of rocking back and forth the night before. So yeah, all along he sort of told everyone where they stand, and it's obviously just a tough. It never becomes easy, does it? That
No.
conversation. So
Does everybody have a bit of an idea, or a one or two hit
I can
from
imagine
sideways?
some people were a bit more surprised than others, but another thing about Steve is like he'll let you sort of not fight your case. It's not a courtroom, but like he wants to have an open conversation. So if you're not happy about something, if you tell him, then he'll have the conversation with you and tell you why.
So
And
do-
I've had that in the past with him, and I've always appreciated it.
Did those conversations happen over the weekend, or was it last night, or was it?
I assume they were yesterday. Yeah,
yesterday.
It's Monday today, isn't it? Yeah.
With a game, it's going to be hard to do it any other day, isn't it? It's quite brutal.
I think before squad got announced. Yeah, so yesterday as we're leaving the hotel, sort of thing.
And when the WhatsApp group's formed, is it GIFs and emojis, or is it just let's go to work?
It's actually radio silence.
Is it?
Well, yeah, everyone's sort of like licking their wounds after the game and trying to recover, and then you got to sort all your admin out to get to camp Monday morning. Some of us came in last night. It's a bit of a whirlwind, really, isn't it? You got sort of 12 hours to get to Twickenham for the announcement. So
I know you just said you don't reflect, and you certainly don't build Instagram reels with light music and that sort of thing. But when you look at 4 years ago, when you were the tearaway and you barged your way in, and you were something of an unknown entity at that point, you stand here 4 years on as vice captain, prem winner, dad, etc. Do you feel? I know there you are.
Father.
Do you feel a very different beast?
Probably felt better back then in terms of physically than I do now.
Really?
I've played a lot more rugby in between those 4 years. Do I feel a different beast? I feel wiser, a lot wiser. I feel less impulsive, just matured a bit. I can remember sort of Eddie saying to me 4 years ago, played Italy and Newcastle, and then more or less saying to me, that game got me into the squad. So yeah, a bit of a different situation for me now. But I actually think that the responsibility and I guess added pressure probably make me kick on a bit more. Yeah. I hope. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Where has the majority of the pre-season been spent? Has it been a lot? Because I always feel that this team hasn't really. This sounds weird, and you can correct me if it's wrong. It hasn't really gelled as a team because it's been quite in and out. It's been quite a revolving door of players.
And change of coach.
Do you think? And a change of coach. Do you think? Have you spent more time as a team training as a team on the field rather than just doing an old-fashioned flog it fitness and bits and bobs?
Yeah, we've stayed away from the sort of like straight line running and to the baseline gentleman, that sort of setup. There's obviously been times when you have to do that because that's how you get fit. It's the best way to get fit. So we have trained a lot. I guess after the weekend, people are probably questioning that. Well, no, it's true. We didn't really look like the finished article on the weekend. But I think the way we're trying to play, and I feel like I've said it a few times, is you have to have 100% buy-in. And I feel that probably the added pressure of selection and stuff like that potentially put a bit of a spanner in the works. But rest assured, we'll get it right.
Yeah.
Tell me, I mean, I know you've said it 1,000 times, but just for clarity, when England run out, tell me what is the game plan? Because a lot of people are sort of on Twitter, everyone's got their opinions. Don't go there. But how do you guys want to play? How is this squad built, and how are you set up to play? What are the hallmarks of what you're
high pressure?
Yep.
A high pressure game. Impose. Yeah, without telling everyone the game plan,
yeah, sure.
It's tough to do, but we want to have a very certain brand. We want people to feel it when we play against them physically. We're obviously not genetically the biggest bunch in the world, so I think we have to make up for that with effort and work rate. So I guess that's where we try to compensate.
I was going to, because flinging back to a different decade, someone was always trying to sell us the dream. Is Steve selling you the dream of how you want to play, how he sees it going, and then you're implementing it? Or is it Steve feeding off the players how you want to play and let's create a way that you're all happy?
A bit of both. I think in Test rugby it's very different to sort of domestic level. I'd say New Zealand are probably the only team really in Tier 1 rugby that sort of have a very, very specific style just because they play it from when they come out of the womb, don't they? That their skill sets are that much better than 90% of the other nations. So I think they could probably move the ball a little bit better than other nations. I think English rugby's always been similar. I think, sorry, Tinds, to chuck you under the bus, but back in the day, probably wasn't as finely tuned and as fast and ferocious as now. So everyone thinks that like you can just do all this magic stuff that happened 10 years ago, but you can't. You get so much less time on the ball. Press is so much better in defence, and you get an hit 10 times harder. Scrums are harder, mauls are, everything's so much harder. So if you do like sort of not waste, but spend all your energy doing those sorts of things, then you're not going to be able to focus on other facets of the game. And although at the moment day before yesterday, we definitely didn't look like we'd got it right. I think we're definitely in the right direction. And again, it's easy for me to sit here and say that, but I wholeheartedly believe it.
Yeah. What was said off the back of Saturday?
To be honest, on the pitch after, you got to use a bit of nous in terms of people are probably still thinking about whether or not they're going to be going. So you want to calm the nerves. We had 3 people make the debut: Theo, Tom, and Tom. The message really was, look, boys, don't beat yourself up over what's happened. We've lost. No one wants to lose. But you've made your England debut, and you only get to do that once. So I just said, enjoy it as much as you can. No one's going to sort of be giving you the side eye just because you're really enjoying the fact that you've just debuted for your country. So I just wanted them to fully immerse themselves in that. And because I remember we won when I debuted in 2016, but I can remember in the past when people have made their debut and we've lost, and they're sort of sat there not wanting to enjoy themselves.
Yeah.
And I've always felt bad because ultimately it's for them, isn't it? Can't take it away from them just because you've had a bad day at the office. They still want to work hard. They want to win as well.
Yeah.
They're not happy that they've lost. So I just want to make it very clear to the boys, go out and enjoy yourself, have a drink, and we're here with you.
You going to add to that or not?
No, I think that's all you can do. It's always that difficult situation that everyone worries that if a player isn't looking sad after a game, that they're not sad.
They don't care, yeah.
That they don't care. You don't have to put yourself through the ringer and go sit in a dark room just to make you feel better about the fact that you've lost.
Exactly.
You've got to get. The only way you can make it better is by what you do on the field the next week to put the errors right. And
In that context, given everything you've been going through and what you're trying to do, and do you almost sort of just delete Saturday? Again, everyone's sort of up in arms about it's all falling apart.
I actually think
Would you
it's
take a lot
probably
from
one
it?
of the most important ones to savour, because imagine we went out and put 50 points on them.
Yeah.
What are we going to learn from that,
Yeah.
And we'll probably think with a finished article, and it's such a cliche thing to say, but we're going to learn 10 times more from that than we would have by comfortably winning.
Yep.
I'd rather lose very uncomfortably than win like that at this time of the season. Don't get me wrong, if we get into the later stage of a tournament, I'd take big wins all day, but losing in the manner that we did and making the mistakes that we did, I'd rather bleed now, patch it up, and then crack on, and then be the finished article and think we've cracked it,
no matter how much you work on during the week, you never do it against a live opposition to the state that you're going to get in the test match. So it's then you go back, you look at how it happened in that test match. You have to tweak it. You have to make little adjustments that hopefully the next game it won't do.
It's like in training as well. Like, you've got probably half a second longer on the ball. You're not getting hit as hard. You haven't got the pressures of the crowd. It's not as loud. All these added factors that ultimately is a test arena. You don't have that in training. You try to emulate as much as you can, but you just can't. So that half a second, believe it or not, is like an hour. Like it's so much more time. Having half a second longer to make a decision is the difference between getting the ball away, chucking a bad offload. Such fine margins sort of equal to such a big difference in a game. So that's our first hit out in the test arena, trying to implement what we're doing, and obviously we didn't execute, so we learn a lot.
Does this Saturday become bigger? Or is
I
it
got
just
asked
another...
that, I got asked that after the game. He said, is it a grudge match? Is it a revenge match?
Not so much about them. It's more about your, as a squad and a team. It's settled now. We know who is going. But just the ability to put something on the field which makes you think, shit, this is what we are.
I think I'd be naive to say you probably don't want to sort of find some... I don't know if form's the right word, but maybe a consistency in what we're trying to do. And I guess it's for Steve to decide, but sort of, I guess, getting close to the tournament now, you sort of want to play with people a bit more often, more regularly. We've got 4 weeks until Argentina, which is obviously a massive game for us, first game of the tournament. So warm-ups, I know they sound like you can sort of test out new plans and all that sort of stuff, but in the same breath, like you do want to build some consistency. So I guess it's every game is important. We want to win every game. It's not like we use that one as a trial run. That's not the case. I went out to win the game. Otherwise, would have took tap penalties and scrummed in front of sticks instead of taking 3.
Yeah.
Like we want to build confidence in the way we're playing. And it just didn't come to fruition. I think you can take so much out of so little. Like there was loads of mistakes.
Yeah.
Like you can't hide away from that. And you could make that into this massive mountain. You can make a mountain out of a molehill almost. But I don't think it's that deep. I really think we just got a few bits wrong, small errors, fine margins, and they led to a disappointing loss.
Norses, like my good self, will go back to 4 years ago, and I don't know if you remember, there was another sort of game in Cardiff, which I think England lost. I don't think they took very much from it, but then they came here and played Ireland. Do you remember? And it put 60 points on Ireland, and then you went and did what you did against Italy. And I just wonder whether you feel that actually there is something in there. It's almost like the can's been shaken. You're just waiting for the moment for everything that you're talking about, everything that you've been practicing, to actually come together. Is that have you got that sense within the squad?
I guess, yeah, the word you use is belief. Like, do we believe that we're going to get there? Of course we do. And it's like, I don't know, if you do rehearsal, if you're doing, I don't know, a play or something, and you do it on the night and something goes wrong that you can't rehearse for.
I'm very familiar with that.
It happens. It's true though, isn't it? Like, no one can preempt that we're going to...
They don't get to edit our mistakes,
yeah,
do they?
That's what I mean. You don't predict that you're going to make 16 handling errors or get into there 22, 13 times and not score. Like, no one can predict that. And it's all about adapting. Sadly, we didn't adapt quick enough. So, yeah, I guess there is a small sort of... What's the word? I don't know. You want to correct it, but at the same time, you don't want to be like, boys, if we don't get it right, then it's the end, because otherwise then all bets are off.
How are you physically at the moment? You've had a hell of a sort of pre-season into it. You've played. How
I
you
feel a
feeling?
bit worse, to be honest, 2 days after. I haven't played since 5th of April for my treacherous challenge on Tom Curry. Which
Have you spoken to him about that?
I've spoken to him a few times about it, yeah. Lazarus.
Said what?
Lazarus.
Right.
Back from the dead. No, it's what the game's like now, isn't it? We're all very aware of it, and I got it wrong.
He says, chewing his microphone.
It's been 4 months since I've played, over 4 months. So it was a bit weird for me, to be honest, to get out. And obviously being captain as well, I had to sort of keep a lid on my emotions, which I found quite hard at times. But I'm just excited to be playing rugby again.
And what does it look like now? Because there's obviously a balance between a lot of hard work that needs to get done, but also arriving, particularly for game one, feeling fit and fresh and firing. Is it up and down? Or
no,
what
Alec gets that right. And in terms of being up and down, like, we're very consistent in the way we train. Intensity-wise, it always sort of starts like this, then creeps up, and then don't come down too much, creeps up, and then obviously relax for the game. But in terms of physically, Alec's, since I've worked with him at Leicester, like, he's always been able to find a sweet spot and sort of maintain that, and he's good fun to be around as well, so it's enjoyable.
Are these weeks still a little bit heavier than what they normally be at the moment? You're still trying to get stuff
I don't know
into
yet,
your
because we
legs?
haven't done them, but I know what you mean. In 2019, it very much was the case. Like, still doing fitness and stuff leading up to the game, and you wouldn't really go into a game feeling fresh. But I really don't know. I haven't had Aled at test level for that long, so we'll find out this week.
What impact has Aled Walters and Wiggy had since they've arrived? Is it a noticeable difference, or is it a continuation?
Well, I haven't worked with them before. It's probably a bit more noticeable for other people, so you're probably better off sort of sucking information from them. But for me, I've enjoyed being back around them. The energy they give. I like Wig.
Wig's got a lot of energy.
Yeah, a lot. Too much sometimes. Yeah. I played with Wig. Then obviously watch him transition, such a great coach, and achieve so much in a short space that he's done. You always knew when you played with him that he'd be a great coach, just from the way he was coaching whilst he was playing, really. And ironically, he was a player coach when he came to Leicester. So it's been brilliant. And Aled's obviously been there, done it in 2019. He was on Nemesis, and no, we're not going to call him the saviour, but he's definitely going to be a big part of what we're doing going forward.
Good. You've obviously played with Wiggy many years ago. Was he a coach even at a young age?
No,
What was a young Wiggy like?
Even more
lively.
annoying, even more annoying and
Yeah.
lively. But lively off the pitch as well, which was always nice. Got on well with him. No, I think Wiggy does bring that. Sometimes you need, especially when you, no disrespect to Borthwick, when you've got that sort of quite level-headed type guy who's very rarely, his emotions aren't going to go up and down like that. You need, the likes of Kevin and with Wiggy, those guys who pick you up and make you feel great about yourself and make you feel that you can do anything. And you still see him knocking over drop goals with the old left peg and those sort of things that he does. And as you said, he's always been a student. Most nines are. They understand the game. They actually get how A gets to B to C to D, and he's always been able to articulate that. So he's always going to, and he loves having those high level sort of handling skills where we need to get to now. So he likes playing around with trick shots and bits and pieces. And I would imagine he gives you quite a bit of freedom to test your skill sets as well, which is what you want. to make things easier on a pitch on a Saturday, you have to push limits on a Monday to Friday. And if you have a coach that doesn't really want you to make mistakes in training, that doesn't help you for when you get into a pressure situation on a Saturday. You need to be able to have those times to express yourself. So, I think it's good to have him around, and I think he'll be good going forward.
How is Steve? Is he quite calm and everything's moving in the right direction?
Yeah, the word to describe him is he's always consistent. He's probably a bit more calm after losing in terms of like you don't flip tables and stuff like that, which I think everyone appreciates. It's what Tin said earlier, like when people make their debut and you've lost, like no one's actually happy about losing, but you can't just be negative and bring the place down, because I don't think that has a positive impact for the next week. You got to get a message across and make it clear what we expect and hold a standard. But no, he's very consistent with his mood, and I think that reflects well on the team, especially in the role he's in now.
Who is in the team room? Who is head of fines?
Who's the Hask?
Who is the Hask? Yeah, I mean, hopefully we've got one of those.
I don't think there'll ever be a Hask.
There will never be another Hask. But who is, who's film club? Who's driving? Are you having fun off the pitch?
Well, I think we're going to sort of try and refine that a bit now.
Right.
Because obviously, if you would have put someone in charge of it and then they weren't coming, it would all go down the pan. So.
You've got some quite big characters in there who've been there, done it.
Ludsey usually stays on the music. Sinks got voted off a few times. But I'm a massive fan of the tune Sinks plays, obviously, and then everyone else. I think it's just...
What's he go with?
It's just a lot of trap, a lot of drill.
Right. Right down my street.
Yeah.
Modern UK.
Just where you want to be. That.
I was saying to Tins, I saw Nickelback in Milwaukee on Sunday.
Oh wow!
Unreal.
Really?
Unreal.
You flew straight in?
Yeah. Well, it's not. No, it's not. I was there for work, but.
Oh, okay.
That would be my go-to.
You might not know this.
Worldwide.
He's the face behind
Worldwide, yeah.
Triathlon.
Yeah,
He's
worldwide.
the face behind triathlon.
I'm going to give love normal.
I actually watched some of it.
Just
You weren't
sitting
even on TV. I was like,
I do
what
2
is he
minutes at the
doing?
top and 2 minutes at the end. I was there for a week. Best gig going.
Yeah.
Sorry, you were saying about drill and rap.
Yeah. But then he watched Yellowstone, I think, and he actually quite likes a bit of country now as well.
Does he?
Everyone loves country. I think that's our go-to now in the gym, really.
Yeah.
Country.
Get yourself out to Milwaukee.
Elton John's quite
There you go.
popular at the moment.
Yeah. I love that. Are you going to have a team song? Because it was, what was the Gambler in 07, wasn't it?
Yeah,
No
it
one
was.
hold them. No one hold them.
Wait,
Yeah, we had to send through 2 songs, actually, that get played upon arrival and played if we score a try.
But do you?
Can't remember what was voted in. Obviously, when the poll got put on the group, boys were chuckling some of the roguest songs.
wrongest songs.
Yeah, like, I actually can't remember off the top of my head now. I just remember looking at them thinking, that's absolutely
Whitney,
berserk.
Britney.
No, like way more left field.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Nice. Is it important, though, and particularly as vice captain, you've had Vincent Company, haven't you? Is it important that there is a... You don't just get sort of locked up?
No, yeah, you get cabin fever, boys, don't you?
Yeah.
And we all know what happens then.
Yeah. What do you look at me for? Look at me.
The king of cabin fever. I think it's one of the hardest things to get right.
Yeah.
It's one of the hardest things to get right, but also one of the most important things. And like I said, I think we're going to put the brilliant minds we've got together now and sort of try and devise a plan to keep things fresh. Steve's quite good at sort of, again, you've probably had this yourself, where you feel like you're being scrutinised for enjoying yourself off the pitch.
Yeah.
And it's like you're not trying to win or not trying to work hard
Yeah.
just because you're having good fun. Like that's the worst feeling you can have in an environment, is when you feel like you're being judged for trying to enjoy yourself when you're on a...
I wish
campaign.
media wouldn't try and jump in and judge people. Remember, obviously 2011 had
Bit different.
numerous
Yeah.
issues, but like Tomo rented, was it Tomo rented a motorbike and just went cruising on a motorbike.
Oh, good.
And went nuts. They went nuts at him. What's he doing on a motorbike? He was in a World Cup.
Actually, I just
Maybe he
think...
rides a motorbike every day. What's the problem? He does it every day.
I think it was Dylan that rented the
car.
Like
They bought the car, yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
I think that's mint.
I think
Are we going to see
Francis
around in a Winnebago?
No, you've got to get the French Classic. You've got to get something
A
like a
Citroen
Renault
2CV,
2CV with the full convertible curtain.
Don't they like scooters over there?
Yeah,
big
scooters.
Probably get some scooters, little scooter club. We had like a Lime scooter club in Verona.
Did you?
Literally like a mass, probably 15 of us.
I don't reckon Italy have ever seen bigger men on scooters.
It was genius.
What did I see with you in a speedboat?
That was class.
That was at Verona as
we had
well?
a little social in Verona at the end of it to sort of celebrate the hard work, I guess. And we rented boats. All the front row were captains because we had to distribute the weight evenly.
Nice.
Genuine.
Nice.
Otherwise, the front rows would have went on one boat and it was sunk. So we had to have all the front rowers as captains, and yeah, that was class. So like that's an example of like having a good crack and enjoying yourself away from.
It's going to be tricky because obviously France language barrier and everything, and the French as they are
in France now.
So hopefully the promised organisation.
Got the old Duolingo out.
Yeah.
Ding ding. Can I ask you how many times have you been asked about Bazball?
What is Bazball?
Have you watched any of the cricket?
No.
So Bazball is
cricket.
Brendan McCullum, and it's this sort of all-out attack. It's gambled a lot. It's highly entertaining, but high risk, etc. But it's got a real groundswell of England's support behind it. And the reason I sort of asked,
this in the Ashes?
It's in the Ashes. So
Who is Baz though?
So he's the coach,
So
Brendan
they
McCullum.
call him Baz.
So they call the type of cricket they play Bazball.
Is that what they actually openly call it?
Yeah, everyone refers to it as Bazball, and it's just
cool.
it's never say die, etc. I just was interested in your take on sort of what you would say to the England fans, really. You know, as vice captain, what do you want from your supporters?
Bazball.
Fazball. There you go. Brilliant.
What do we want from them?
Yeah, but just how important is that connection with the supporters? What do you want from the hordes who are going to be heading to France?
It's probably more important than ever in England, just purely because obviously you've seen the state of the game domestically this season. I think, I don't know, I'd love to say that we could potentially save rugby at a domestic level if we went out and won the World Cup. I don't know the finer details of it. I know that everyone involved really wants to inspire the nation. Every time the football's been on when we've been in camp, I'm not really a massive football fan, but I've been totally obsessed with it. Even the Cricket World Cup in 2019, I watched that England and New Zealand slugging it out, and I loved it for 10 minutes. But like that's what sport can do to people. And hopefully in a time when things probably seem a bit gloomy financially in the country and especially for rugby on a sports level, hopefully we can put some energy back into them.
What would you say?
Well, no, I think if I was looking back and being a player, just want them to believe. Don't overanalyze now. Just go out there and believe we can win every game and put your effort into that. And that way they'll inspire you. If you're just hearing positive stuff coming from fans, that filters into your psyche and the fact that...
It does. No, it really does. I've always had, not a negative prowess, but you always hear about bad press, don't you?
Yeah.
Because it's the best one. It's the one that sells, what everyone wants to hear. But that small little bit of positive stuff seeping into the camp, it does go a long way. So I'm not begging for praise, but...
No, sure. But you are asking everyone to get behind and...
Absolutely, and enjoy it, man. It's a World Cup. You're only over the water as well, over the pond in France. Come out, have a beer Moretti's Italian, isn't it?
say hi, say hi from behind the velvet rope. Come and say hi, but make sure you stay within the 7 feet.
We must let you go. Good luck this weekend. There's a lot to come between
great to see you.
now and Argentina.
Likewise.
It's worked well for
We
you.
love the journey you're on, and a new chapter awaits. Ellis Genge, vice captain of England. Go get him at the Rugby World Cup.
Merci.
So there goes our boy. The very best of luck to Ellis Genge and all those chosen. The sun has come out here at Twickenham, which after the summer we've had so far, let's hope is a little omen. We've got a few people around the ground getting themselves in the stadium ready for what is to come. England against Wales this Saturday. I can see Stephen Jones of the Sunday Times. And talking of the press, it is a great pleasure to welcome Charlie Morgan of the Telegraph. I think one of the sharpest minds in the game, we've said in the past.
Wow.
To GBR. Welcome. This is your debut, isn't it? We've asked you a
Debut.
few times.
Thanks for having me.
Nice to
made
have
the
you on
time.
board.
It's taken 4 seasons. He really wanted to figure out where we were going with it.
Yeah, exactly.
And walked 25 metres
There you
down
go.
from the press conference.
We've got lots of things I want to ask you about because you are pretty forensic in the way that you look at the game and the access that you have. But just as sort of an overview on the squad that Steve has selected from your point of view.
A lot of conviction. I think leaving out Henry Slade, we wouldn't have seen that coming necessarily, even as close as a couple of weeks ago. I think he's put a lot of stock in players he knows from Leicester Tigers and Sale now in George Ford. I think a lot of title winners. If you think about clearly trying to tap into the momentum of Saracens, both as individuals and maybe as far as how they attacked. So if you think about Daly being there and without Slade, Max Malin's keeping his spot despite probably being less of a factor in the game on Saturday, which I know we're gonna talk about. definitely scope for Ford Farrell to come back into the reckoning.
Likelihood of that?
High, yeah, really high. I'd be almost an inevitability of one of the next 3 warm-up games, I would have thought, probably with that combination's been with Ollie Lawrence once, didn't go very well. It was in Ireland, which was a bit of a trash fire. But Ollie Lawrence has looked really assured, I think, in the last Six Nations. And I think in a really restricted role, in a just bat the front door down, gets over the gain line. I think he can offer more than that, maybe with those 2 distributors and the cohesion that those 2 distributors have.
Yeah. In terms of the headlines, I mean, you've touched on Slade, Don Brandt, probably another. Has anything surprised you, though? I mean, it sort of feels like in the past we've had big bolters coming in from left field, but this has sort of been an evolution that hasn't really kind of had too many fireworks around it. Have you been surprised by any of the decisions?
Perhaps because it's been an evolution of the whole summer and the ins and outs of the wider training squad, and the fact that as Steve said himself, he hasn't made that. It's not a kind of 2015 Denver style, get 50 people out there and leave it relatively late, and leave it really open relatively late, I should say. I think maybe the lack of specialist number 8 cover for Billy Vunipola, given Billy Vunipola didn't play in the Six Nations, seemed a flagship omission of Steve Borthwick initially, and the fact that you've probably got Lewis Ludlam moonlighting there and Ben Earl as an option, but that Ben Earl inclusion is potentially a sign that he wants to really tap into that Saracens attack a little bit more.
Do you think Steve knows what the first selection will be for Argentina at this point, or do you think he's got a lot to do over the next 3 games?
I think he'd certainly have an idea. In the aftermath of Wales, the first warm-up game on Saturday, he was asked, your best 15. I think he's pretty close to that.
Yeah.
I hate second-guessing him, as
That's
I've just
exactly
said
what I'm going to ask you to do.
Camera,
yeah.
Because he's playing chess while we're playing checkers a lot of the time. But yeah, no, I'm fairly sure he'll have it pretty high in his mind.
Should we try and pick a team for Argentina? Do you want to do that?
Sure.
Ellis, Jamie, George, Sinks?
I think who's on the bench if you want to play for someone who's going to come on from an impact point of view. Without Mako, you don't really have that.
Right.
So I still think your best front row is probably Ellis, Jamie George, and Sinks.
Dan Cole would be the
much of
alternative.
impact from the bench. It puts a lot of pressure on.
But can your impact be withstanding a set piece onslaught?
It
Marlow would
depends on
have
how the
been
game.
handy on Saturday.
It depends on how the game goes. Obviously, if it's a really tight contest or you're in front and you're protecting the lead, then bring someone on who does the nuts and bolts is fine. But I think those would be your starting 3. I don't think anyone will argue with you at the moment around those.
Would you be happy with that?
Yeah, I think Will Stewart will make a really hard push for that. Deceptively mobile and really sturdy. They're the 1-2 punches though I think that you've got.
Do you shore up to start with and then bring on your impact, or do you play and then come on to shore up?
No, you should play your best 15 in the right position.
But how do you define what your best 15 is relative to the strengths
Well, it depends on how you want to play.
Well, okay. So I tell you what, let's come back to this thing.
We need ball carriers.
Yep.
So you need Ellis to play, and you need Sinks to play.
I asked Ellis, and it's difficult as an England player to say this is what we're trying to do, because you kind of want to keep the cards close to your chest, particularly under a Steve Borthwick sort of managerial position. In your position, what are the hallmarks of what this England side are trying to do? Because I think you might be able to give more than actually some of the current players. How are they trying to play?
I definitely wouldn't say I could say more than the current players. From the outside, it looks like they're clearly going to prioritise territory where it's appropriate. That's what Steve coveted as Leicester Tigers head coach, and it got him here, and they won the final against the Oz. I think what he's got at his disposal, he's spoken about going on a long chat with Owen Farrell before he made Owen Farrell captain, and talking about how he wanted to play. And I can't think that he hadn't spoken about, tapped into a little bit about how Saracens had a look. What was so refreshing about how they won the Premiership was they had a look first, and then they went back to, they had the bedrock of what everybody loved to hate about Saracens, which was really prioritising territory and defensive pressure. I think with Farrell and Daly as a potentially really pivotal combination because he wasn't going to pick Alex Good at 15. So you need that second playmaker. Those two have a really, really sharp understanding that can really enhance England's phase play. I think he tried to get it going in the Six Nations, but if you remember, Elliot Daly did a hammy right on the eve of the tournament.
Yeah.
So I think, although Saturday was seriously pared down, which we can maybe get onto later, I think they will play a little bit more than maybe we expect.
Okay, so that should fill the coffers a little bit. Should we get back to the team, or do you want to pick up on Daly?
No, we'll get there at the end.
Okay, so we've got Ellis, Jamie George, Carl Sinclair. Your second row, because you go second row first, because I think Charlie's got an interesting.
Obviously, Marrow is Marrow. You hope he goes in your team because.
So that is a question: is Marrow? If you know,
he's not. I think he showed glimpses of it coming back towards the end of the season with Sarries. Obviously, there was a lot of chat around, and you probably know more than me, around that Six Nations that he wasn't quite feeling himself. But he's worth picking on the fact that even an average Marrow still gets the job done. But his standards have been set so high that he, as long as he's fully fit, all singing and dancing, he goes in the team because he can give you so much. Talk about Ellis said we want to put high intensity pressure rugby, and no one in the world does it better than, or not many in the world.
At his best.
At his best, yeah.
Is Marrow undroppable?
Big line-out leader, which is really important for this team.
Certainly off Saturday.
Yeah. As far as a variety, they'll want to play off it. So yeah, I think he's pretty important. I'd say.
Yeah. And then I'd go either. I haven't quite made my mind up whether I go Ribbons or Martin, but I think you need a big one alongside him.
Yeah.
A physical, just.
So no Chesham, who went well for.
I think Marrow and Chess are very similar. Would that be right in terms of Chess has got a lot of energy, carries a lot. I thought he played really well in the first couple of games for that in that Six Nations, but my worry is with this England team, and I sort of made a note of it through the Six Nations, as like walking into the dressing room and going, I wouldn't be bothered about playing against him. Oh, Genge, wouldn't like to play against him. I'm not bothered. And whereas if you still go through that South Africa team, you go, oh, no, I won't want to play against it. Oh, no, I won't want to play against it. Van Meulen, Dutoit. You're like, oh, no, Delandy, oh, no, thank you. No, thank you. Cheslem, fuck no, Chas, no, thank you. So I think that's the problem, is they've got to create a feeling where people are like, oh, I don't really want to play against that, and we haven't necessarily always got that. So you need someone who, like Johnny Hill, is a nuisance. Maybe gives away too many penalties, but he's in your face. He's a horrible mullet in your head, in your face, and he gets under people's skin. There's no doubt about that. So you need a bit of that. You need the physical side of it, or you need someone who gets in there. So I think that's why they need a big one alongside Marrow. Marrow's going to be in your face, wooing and hollering and hooping, but you also need someone who's going to niggle you a bit as well.
Okay.
Don't know what you think of that.
So
well, I think in a couple of years, George Martin will be a shoe-in in that position.
Is he there for a lion and waiting type thing?
Yeah.
So would you call him a bolter? Maybe would he be a bolter for
that?
You
is
for this?
how we'd headline it and caption it and everything. Yeah. I think you're right as far as I think Ollie Chesham and Marrow are both locks that would maybe want a lump next to them. And Dave Ribbons showed his sort of value in that sort of role in the Ireland game, the last game of the Six Nations. England just looked a bit spikier with him there.
Yeah.
I think Martin, a couple of fumbles will stick in the mind for a lot of people watching on Saturday, but he went to work after that. Lots of carries, lots of tackles, and he's high impact with those tackles as well. He's on the back of a excellent season for Leicester. I think, it might be even a year too early for him to really impose himself on this World Cup, but it might not be. Those things can accelerate fairly quickly.
We shall see. So you're going Martin and Marrow?
Yeah.
Okay. Back row.
Oh, Ribbons for this one.
Ribbons. Ribbons.
And the bolter is Martin.
And the bolter is Martin on the bench.
First.
Okay. Back row. We could spend probably the next 4 weeks trying to work out what England will do there. But the sort of Curry-Willis double team is the new sort of kamikaze kids of 4 years ago. Billy is the only standing 8. Ben Earl will wreck everything and not stop running. Lewis Ludlam has had some great days for England, or certainly some good performances for England. Do you want to go first, Charlie? How on earth do you try and go? Courtney Laws, actually, we can't forget at 6 as well.
But in my mind, Courtney Laws has to play.
Right,
He sets the tone for everything, physicality-wise.
right.
And people will not want to play against him. No 10 wants to see him stood in front of him when he's about to
So
receive the
therefore,
ball.
but when you say play, has he got to start? Has he
Yes,
got to play at
he has
6?
to start.
So at 6.
Yeah.
Okay.
A couple of known unknowns, one of which is does Courtney still want to play at lock? Is he still considered as a lock?
Yeah.
That could change things totally. And the other one is, so the 2019, talking about the Kamikaze Kids, they only came together in this game.
Yeah.
I think they tried to play them in the game against Wales, and Underhill did his toe or something
Yes.
like that. So they left that combination the first time it played was in that Ireland game,
Yeah.
which set the tone blew everything out the water
Yeah.
as far as were Ireland good enough to get past the knockout game, and wow, England looked totally energised. That could be. So what I'm talking about there is Curry and Willis. Is that a factor? Steve Borthwick's the only person that knows that, and I just think that England have shown that's the precedent. The Kamikaze Kids is the precedent for a totally new combination, changing the look of a World Cup team, and that could happen in the midfield, as we'll get onto later, I'm sure, or it could come in the back row. I think not being able to be sure of that, I think you'd go Laws 6. I'd go Willis just off the back of bit of injury trouble for Tom Curry and Willis's fantastic year for Toulouse, in which he maybe just became a bit more assertive with ball in hand. And then Billy's there at number 8.
And Billy is a definite starter at 8. You wouldn't put a Curry
Well,
at 8?
that's another unknown. It's another unknown.
Because Billy almost with 8.
When you're talking about picking a team, you've got to imagine they're on the best form that they've got, and they're walking in there that way.
Okay.
I mean, a fully fit Billy has to start.
Yeah.
Now, if he's not showing that, then you talk about other options. But I had exactly the same. I had
Willis,
Willis,
Billy, and Laws.
Yeah.
And that does begin to have a bit of what you're talking about there. Laws you don't want to play against. Billy at his best, you're like...
No one wants to play against Billy at his best. Everyone worries about getting hit by Courtney.
Yeah.
And then you've got
Willis
to
is a
you've got to
nuisance.
respect everything that Jack does in terms of ball carrying, over the ball.
Yeah.
Just being an absolute nuisance, but with a high skill set as well.
I like it. Starting to believe a little bit. 9. I'm going to come to you first, Charlie, because Tins will just moan. But 9.
I've got Jack Van Borthwick.
Have you?
Yeah.
Because?
I think he's got a high ceiling. I think if you think about his
High
best
ceiling.
games,
We're not worried about what his ceilings are.
I think it's
like
about
in his
coming
house.
to that.
Yeah.
I think the best in his best moments for England, start of the second test
How many of those are there?
start of the second test in Brisbane,
Australia, yeah.
and I think really underrated performance away in Wales during the Six Nations. I think he's shown he covers a lot of bases. He's got a lot of variety about his game because he can be quick with that service, and has also got a bit of control with that kicking as well. And I think he's just the more rounded.
And maybes and showed.
Wing and a prayer as well. But he's start for me.
Okay. Why has he gone back to the old guard? Obviously, JVP is not, but Danny and Ben are. Why has he gone with those two rather than a gamble of a Alex Mitchell, a Rafi Quirk, a Ben Spencer?
Well, I think with two, Eddie
Leicester,
Jones always...
it's what he knows.
Yeah, there's that.
There's a lot of it where he's gone back to the safety of what he coached and what he knows.
Yeah.
Eddie Jones always wanted, I think he said, one controlling 9, one 9 to bring up the pace, and one experienced 9. So that experienced 9 meant we thought that by default, Kerr or Youngs were definitely going. And then you looked at maybe someone like Ben Spencer to control things, or someone like Alex Mitchell, for example, to speed things up and be a bit less predictable. It looks like the 9 position is where it's most overtly a Leicester template, but then Kerr makes you kind of doubt that a little bit. What Kerr really offers, which I have a theory that that was one of the things that they purposefully put away in Wales last weekend, is that short kicking game that really mixes things up, because they're really on about, they've been speaking quite a lot in camp about how the best sides, New Zealand specifically at the minute, are kicking in ways that are a little bit different, and mainly from 10, but also that attacking kicking game that Kerr's got that's been just on show throughout the Premiership is probably unrivaled.
Yeah.
And that's the little bit of variety that potentially he can bring.
Okay.
Say on 9s, if you look at all the best teams in the world right now, all their 9s are massively influential. So you look at Dupont, best running 9 that we've seen for a decade.
Aaron Smith.
Or even longer. Smith, Gibson Park, how he's changed. I think fundamentally how he's changed Ireland rugby by the way that you play. If you can get speed of ruck, and people want to play a high press game on you, and you can just pick run, you've got your runners all around you, and people understand it. It's so hard to defend.
If Ireland go well at this World Cup, they'll look back at that choice to promote him not out of nowhere, but kind of ballsily and go, that was huge, I think.
Interesting. 9, question mark. 10, Farrell, or are they going to go Ford and Farrell to 12? I mean, Farrell it's all built on Owen Farrell. You're both nodding. You happy with that?
I think so, unless there's a Ford Farrell, but this is where it's potentially tailored to an opponent, potentially 23 becomes more
This is
important.
Argentina.
Right.
Playing.
They're going to have big centres. So Farrell 10.
12, 13. Again, we've only got sort of, an hour's show. So Tins, 12, 13.
No, the rain clouds are coming.
No, exactly.
So 10, I've got Faz.
Yep.
I think then I'd put Mano at 12 and I'd put Elliot Daly at 13.
With a wry smile, because?
I just think it's where Elliot started. I think it's always been his best position. I think I know that Slady was there for using the wiper and he's using his left boot. We never really used it. I think Elliot's obviously got a rocket in there. You talked about changing the way you kick. I don't think we use that kicking option well enough anymore. I think it's normally either set up one side of the ruck or the other and it's kicked straight off first phase where, you talk about maybe playing a phase to get out. Whereas if you throw it in Elliot's hands on a missed one, I've got no problems that he can make the right decision, whether it's on for him to have a little gamble and move it wide, or he can pin a corner or whatever and move their pendulum around a bit more and have a look at that, not to always do the same thing.
Siege gun boot off the tee as well.
Yeah.
Little extra 3 here or there. Saw that with the Lions.
Gives you that long pop as well.
I think Daly is essential with as far as if Farrell's the man at 10.
Has Elliot come slightly from outside back in again, or have I completely made that up? Or
So
would he always have been there?
Definitely on the outside under Jones.
Yes.
Under Borthwick, he was named as early as possible. Did a hamstring.
Yes.
In Edinburgh. Might sold me on that midfield. I would love to see, and I think it could be the sort of thing that maybe changes how people think about England a little bit. Tuilagi Lawrence would be quite. I'd like to see that with Daly being that roaming second receiver from wing, where I think that gives him maybe a little bit of freedom that potentially 13 doesn't.
Okay. So you've obviously gone to Tuilagi Lawrence. I'll give you the casting vote on this one. But then back 3, well, again, some definite options. But it seems that Watson and Stewart are pretty much inked in.
Yeah.
And then you've got Arundel.
I think, from my point, Max Malins is the most underrated player ever. You talk about Alex Good, and everyone's sort of question. I was one of those people who said he can't play international rugby. But then he just kept being brilliant. And he's one of those guys who never looked like he was like a professional rugby player. He'd run a bit weird. And Max Malins is exactly the same. But you go through it when he gets the ball in his hands, always something happens. Whether it be the chip over the try that wasn't allowed for ridiculous blocking law, or he always finishes things off. He's just in the right place at the right time. Plus, he's a Sarries player, so he knows what winning's about. So that's always good to have in your team. I was like, get as many Sarries players in that England team as you can, because they just get things done and they know how to win. I sort of picked. I went on Watson, Stewart, and Malins, but you can sell me on other things. I think Arundel's going to have his role to play. Coming off the bench and doing bits and bobs, because I think he can just be lethal from anywhere. I think Watson's one of the best wingers in the world, and I get excited, and I think people will be scared to play against him. He's just powerful, great feet. Even though he walks like Andy Murray now, it looks like he needs a hip replacement, but he's just so good to watch.
I think Malin's stock is about to rise with this move to Bristol and playing a lot more at 15.
Right.
I think that's going to be really interesting.
So you've gone Malins on the wing because you got Elliot at 13. You went Lawrence at 13, so therefore your wing, Charlie, would be
left wing Elliot, right wing
Anthony.
Watson, fullback Stewart.
Yes. So you went Elliot centre Tins with Malins on the wing. So I think there are a few players in there who you think, actually, hang on, that's not going to be an easy afternoon's work. Ellis, Marrow, Courtney, Billy at his best.
Yeah. That's what it's got
Faz.
to be uncomfortable. People have got to be worried about it.
Yeah.
Right. And, no disrespect to Slade. I just don't think he ever got the chance to get in games. And
Bare his teeth.
yeah.
I've got this obsession with teams not having to peak until sort of into the tournament. And even if you look at like Argentina at the Football World Cup, I think they lost to Japan or something like that. England in the T20 lost to Ireland and then went on to win it. Even South Africa 4 years ago, they lose to New Zealand, but they then find a way.
And they were awful.
For that semi-final was awful. I've got a real thing about teams not necessarily having to show everything, not having to arrive all bells and whistles. Just get there with a very clear, kind of concise plan, and then just find the way to pick up speed.
It's not the way anyone wants to do it.
No, of course it's not. And it's not what the fans want either. But do you think, Charlie, that this England side, when you pick a team like that, and we now know the 33, they have actually got the opportunity to accelerate into the tournament despite everything we've seen, particularly over the last 6, 8, 10, 12 months?
Completely. And one thing about Steve, who's just in our eye shot, is that he won't panic about what happened on Saturday against Wales. He'll just take the relevant information from it, which actually might not have been a lot of relevant information because a lot of those guys aren't in the 33.
Don't drop the ball.
Yeah. And I think never has that been more true, what you're saying, to peak later. But England have to beat one of... Samoa will be a handful. They've got a lot of... they've got Theo McFarlane. They've got these guys coming across from the new eligibility laws, so they're going to be a handful for sure. But they won't have a better opportunity. England, it's a friendly draw.
Yeah.
No disrespect to the teams that they've got to play. They
Japan aren't what they were 4 years ago.
They've had a shock.
The only
had a shocking
question
cycle.
about that, Samoa is going to be a bit with Christian Leofano at 10 at Samoa. They become a different team with the organisation around that. But again, England should get to a semi.
Yes,
really.
Yeah.
Can I ask you, because you have watched more rugby than anyone, just a quick line on the other runners and riders. So Scotland, with a lovely little bounce back against France, have they got...
Horrible group, but if they're brave, move the ball, I think they will, courage of their convictions, they'll fancy one of those two big wins that they have to get. South Africa up first. Gregor Townsend will want to show that the Lions tour was a blip as far as how he handled the attack, and he'll want to go after that.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that.
France? We didn't learn too much, but...
Didn't learn too much, but their gun side, and
I think they bit of a second string team.
Yeah.
they used Twickenham as during the Six Nations as a kind of, this has to be a landmark win, and wow, they're amazing.
Ireland? Haven't seen too much from them in the sort of against Italy.
They wonder whether the Sexton sideshow becomes a thing, but I hope not. They've just, again, horrible quarterfinal that they're gearing up for against France or New Zealand.
Yeah.
New Zealand will fancy it given what happened in the series down there.
Yeah.
But they have all the momentum, they have all the cohesion with them.
Argentina.
Possibly
Big win against the Wallabies.
Big win
But
against
then
the
they've dropped
Wallabies,
off against...
disappointing.
Yeah.
Then fronted up again in South Africa, will be disappointed to lose at home. So hot and cold. So seeing them described as the new France.
Are we worried about Argentina, or are they...
As Tim said, the rhythms of the Rugby Championship are so hard to work out. They've traditionally been really good at World Cups, haven't they? Apart from the last one where they had England and France in the same pool. One at Twickenham, but England were awful, and one of the Argentina tries was pretty contentious, seems to remember. So that's the big one and the first one. But I would say that whoever loses that will still get through to quarterfinal.
You would imagine so. New Zealand. So it's extraordinary to say it, but they appear up until the start of the Rugby Championship to have been under the radar a little bit. People very much talking France, Ireland, South Africa, etc. New Zealand have had their own problems. Is it coming to the boil for them at the right time?
Yeah, the Ireland series made them angry, I think. Joe Schmidt so a bit more direct, really clever kicking game. The Mo'unga Barrett 10-15 axis people weren't sure about it 4 years ago. It seems to be really clicking. That first burst that they had against South Africa in Auckland was really good, and it was almost like you declare to the World Cup after that. Because don't want to show anything else, to kind of paraphrase Eddie Jones. Will Jordan, rock star. Scott Barrett looks brilliant. Ominous.
The smile says it all.
Yeah.
South Africa.
South
cold.
Africa, don't know. They've played hot and cold really
Yeah.
for a team that normally are quite consistent. But you know what you're going to get at that at tournament level. It's just going to be hard, aggressive, in your face. We reckon we've got 15 big uns better than yours, and you're going to have to prove us wrong. You can't go to any World Cup and not mention South Africa because they're just built for World Cup rugby.
Knockout rugby, aren't they? Which leaves us with a minute and a half on Australia. And actually, it was interesting off the back of Saturday, Wales, England, everyone going, where's Eddie? Which I think is probably nonsense, etc. But Eddie is in Australia and he's got his own problems down there to be dealing with. What do you make of the Wallabies? There's been some amazing quotes. There's been some bang average rugby. There's been moments of brilliance. It just is a circus, isn't it?
They've been a little bit reminiscent of England's Eddie Jones as far as putting together a start that is super precise, irresistible, and then almost that overshadowing the rest of the performance and not being able to maintain that intensity and then getting found out that way. It's interesting that he went strong. He really wanted to win that last game, didn't he? He went strong and All Blacks had a strong bench and pulled it back in. But for those to go 2 tries up, that was some gorgeous stuff. They were interesting. They were really, at the MCG, they were really punchy, really tight. And then they were really punchy again, but went wide so nicely. I think they're going to play so much differently to, I think, how England would have played under Jones. But they will be all right. I do not think.
Do you think something is coming? Or is that just Eddie inside our heads?
Yeah, he's rattling around in there for
Yeah.
sure. But just thinking of a week-long build-up to a quarter-final between Australia and England is how much is he going to love that? He has to, just to mention one other potential contender, he's got to contend with Fiji, who are going to be very good.
Right, I think Fiji get through that group.
They pumped Japan at the weekend and have a driving maul. Look like they might have a scrum as well, which is
Wales player
dangerous.
first up, right? That is the World Cup
Is
final for Wales.
Is that Vern Cotter?
No,
Yeah.
he's left.
He's gone,
He's
is he?
left. So Simon Rawalui.
Oh, is it? Sorry. You are a highbrow rugby journalist who deals in detail and fact and.
This is the rarest
Well
show
connected.
we've ever had.
I know.
Where we've
Have you
actually
listened to any of the GBR boys? Good Bad Rugby Australia?
Yes, yeah, I have.
I mean, we've doubled the shambles on the other side of it. I just was
They
interested
did a
in their view
fantastic
on it.
job down
They
there.
are peddling away furiously, trying to keep hope and
Did you
belief
watch
alive.
Did you watch the foot race?
I haven't seen
I
the foot
did.
race. I've seen Matt Gitto link in more than half cut. Which is great.
Mai Tai. They're selling the Mai Tai tables from
Yeah.
Harvey Norman.
They're doing all right down there, aren't they? We've created a monster. We've certainly got something to compete
I
against.
think actually Drew gave up on that race. He knew
Right.
he was beat.
Yeah.
So towards the end, he looked like
I think 60 was probably a bit too long for him. Maybe a 30 metre
with that
race.
drum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're coming on we're doing this cruise in Marseille. They're coming on the cruise. And I mean, it's a big boat, but maybe we'll have a little GBR race off. You up for that, Tins? Your knee doesn't work anymore.
No, and
You'll have to
my
run on
knee
a
needs
stump.
to come back. Yeah.
Hask can't walk, let alone run.
I'll take another jab. But
Good.
I need to
If you
do something
haven't
with it.
listened to the Good Bad Rugby Australia, do go and find it. It's it's chaos and carnage. What else would you expect? But they're a very effervescent and energetic bunch doing their bit for the Wallabies down there. I love doing this. I'm going to get you to pin your colours to the mast. 28th of October, 2023. The hands that lift the Webb Ellis Cup will be.
South Africa.
Do you think? I see.
Yeah.
I've gone South Africa as well, and I hate myself for doing it. But why?
Just know their way around tournament. They've got a few positions to sort out. 9, 12, 13.
Do you want to do it now, or do you want to still keep your powder
No,
dry?
look, I'm desperate because I feel for the last 2 years, Northern Hemisphere have led the way in terms of international rugby, so I want a Northern Hemisphere winner. And I'm not really bothered whether it's France or Ireland, but I think France have got a better chance of doing it.
Okay, heard it here first. Charlie, thank you for bringing some highbrow intellect to the petri dish of averageness that is GBR. We're off and running again with season 4. Are you doing the whole thing out there? And you're coming back.
Back and forth,
Because
back
you've
and
got a
forth.
little small bambino, so you're coming back for little bits and bobs.
Servicing it back to service a 5-week-old baby, which would be fun.
Well done. Enjoy it all. Nice to see you. Thank you for joining us. Michael, we are at Twickenham today. Charlie Morgan's gone to South Africa for the win. We are going to be hopefully back at Twickenham on the 25th
Yep.
of August.
Yes, Alex, we are. Right, SA versus New Zealand.
I know.
Wouldn't have thought that was happening at Twickenham, would you, outside of a
You'd
World
be
Cup?
wrong.
But
It is.
All eyes will be at Twickenham on Friday the 25th of August for the All Blacks taking on the Springboks, come face-to-face in this historic clash. Why is it suddenly historic? Well, I
You've got
suppose it
very
is
Don
quite old.
King in your promotion.
No. Kickoff is at 7:30, and we won't want you to miss out. Head to ticketmaster.co.uk to get your tickets and be where the action is.
Should be an absolute belter.
Could that be a World Cup final?
Is
Is it possible? Of course it's possible.
Yes, it is.
If they don't meet each other in a quarter-final,
If they don't meet each other in a quarter-final, Michael.
Why are you shaking my head at me, Craig? Surely it's got to be possible. They're in two different groups.
That's a good question. There's a teaser for you. Can New Zealand and South Africa meet in the World Cup final?
Meeting in the World Cup final.
I haven't done the maths on that.
I'm going to try and be something that men can't do and do two things at once whilst we chat and work it out in my brain.
Multitasking. Right. Okay. That is us done for our first show of season 4. We have got so much to look forward to. We're going to be all over the Rugby World Cup, as I'm sure you know. We have got lots more shorter, sharper content coming for you as well. We've got GBR as a growing entity. We've got Skazajob as the face of TNT Rugby. I mean, you couldn't ask for more than that. Well done to Emily on that front. And of course, Good Scaz Rugby is set to be bigger and better than ever. We've got new faces, new stories, new places to be. We wouldn't have it any other way. And actually, it's been nice and peaceful this week, hasn't it?
It has been. Hopefully, he's got an extended run in Ibiza and till probably June next year.
I tell you what, though, he is obviously DJ superstar right now, but he did say on the phone the other day he's actually been watching a lot of rugby. So he's a reformed character. He's going to come back for his first show with a side parting, suit and tie, a clipboard, stats, facts. He has got a newfound passion for the sport. However long that lasts.
He actually, I was with him on Saturday, and he even paid for the Ultimate Rugby app now.
Stop it!
So he's like, I've now got stats.
I don't know. It's like he's gone into sort of he's gone into a retreat and come out as a new man.
I know.
God help us
Other
all.
apps are available because Ultimate Rugby don't pay us.
Right. And other guests are available as well because Hask doesn't do much for us either. The wheels are rolling. So much more to come, of course. So much more to look forward to. We are The Good, the Bad and the Rugby. We are produced by Shara Kilgallen and Tom Edwards. We have a new friend in Continental Tires. It's great to have them on board. And this is a Folding Pocket production. Look after yourselves. Back next week. See you then.
Got to be that.
I was saying to Tins, I saw Nickelback in Milwaukee on Sunday.
Oh, wow.
Unreal.
Really? You
Unreal.
flew straight in?
Yeah, best gig going. Sorry, you were saying about drill and rap.
Yeah.